Hey, Maria, back with another video. I just got home and I wanted to kind of, I had a brief conversation today, and I also received an email, and so it's just kind of, and I also watched an amazing video today, and the combination of all of it just kind of made me think about the whole, situation, and how people sometimes are blind or they're unsympathetic or they don't understand, and that's very difficult. That's one of the reasons why, I'm a big believer in people minding their own business. The other reason why is because, oftentimes, people who are over listening on things, they tend to, impose their own ideas or the solutions to problems that may not necessarily apply to them. They think there's like a one size fits all solution for people's problems, and sometimes they want to, suggest a solution. Like perhaps maybe they wanted to suggest solutions to my life, and they thought that I was an unhappy person. I would say that I'm not an unhappy person. I would say that what happened to me was a situation that made me unhappy. I was very unhappy in my work life, going to work, being harassed all the time, and then being out of job for long periods of time, and then getting another one, and the same thing happening. That was the biggest, darkest cloud over my head for the longest time. And that right there was just what destroyed me. And now I'm like, wow, okay, I get this, I understand. But for people who can't understand it, it kind of bothers me because, whether they understand it or not, what bothers me is that they still feel, they get offended. Like in the process of getting mobbed and being targeted, they get irritated because you're basically, crying out for help, and that your life is being destroyed. Like, hey, I can't pay these bills, and I'm like, struggling, and all this stuff is happening, and they continue to set up interviews, they continue to do all this stuff, and it's like, you can't imagine the fear, because what you're dealing with are people who basically have no regard for your life, and they're standing behind a desk, and they're got this smirk on their face, and it becomes quite apparent that they either, number one, are evil, and both, number two, that it's confirmation of the world that we live in. Okay, because I would tell you, I would never participate in something that would psychologically devastate somebody. Like, that would be like, I never had like a whole lot, but I will say, what I've acquired, the skills that I've acquired, I'm content with, and I'm a marketable person, and I have to pay my bills like everyone else. And, to deal with this constant, they want to play this game, and it gets to the point where it's a game that they're playing with your life. And then when you make videos, you're trying to bring awareness. Hey, look what you're doing. I can't do this, this, and this. And a lot of it has to do, I will say that the mind game, or the intensity, it intensifies when you have the element of religion or some other cause behind it. Because in their mind, hey, this is score one for the team. Some people might even be misguided enough to believe that they're doing it for God. Okay, that's when it becomes bad. That's one of the reasons why it's against the law. Okay, don't bring religion there. And it's not, some people think, well, you're supposed to, but let's just say God really was like that, okay? Which I don't know anything in the scriptures that, relate to employment when it comes to that. But anyway, but let's just say, for example, it's still not your responsibility to force or impose your view onto another person, and then have some sort of consequence if it doesn't turn out that way. And, I get the feeling that, I'm not going to bring in Piggy's name, I get the feeling that, obviously he's a part, or he adheres to something like that, yet he's too cowardice to come up in front and tell me that. It's like, that's like the weakest shit I've ever heard of, but whatever. Okay, so my point is that what you're dealing with are people who, number one, they're in your business. Number two, they don't have a right to. They don't have a right to do that. And they're also demonstrating that they're not aware or qualified to do their job. And you're sitting here working your ass off. And I will say it's something that it's like you're standing here witnessing an injustice that it's almost surreal, because everything that you were raised to believe about, getting to work on time, working hard, doing your best, kind of get along with others, all these sort of things that, you're constantly making sure you're doing, everything that all these professional books outline that you're supposed to do. You're doing everything you can. And these people are doing the exact opposite, and somehow they continue to be employed. You're witnessing something that is almost like, what in the world? And it initially could start off as a joke. I mean, who knows? But whatever the case is, you can't believe that this is happening. That's where a lot of the trauma comes in. And then it also comes, the trauma is because your family's behind it. All of that is a tremendous amount of stress. And you wonder what kind of people would do this sort of thing. And you're like, oh, your family, okay, wait, wonderful, nice. But some people, they're not capable of empathizing with other people. And I've always been very frustrated with these sort of people. Like, for example, when I was younger in school, you might see two kids playing in the pool, right? And one kid doesn't swim very well, okay? I'm sure many kids drown because there's that one kid who doesn't quite understand why holding that person's head under the water, isn't funny. He's been holding that person's head under the water for about 25 seconds now, and then the kid's slightly brain damaged, but isn't that funny? They don't get it. And so, the thing is, people they need to understand what it means to say stop. When you say stop, knock it off, you're harassing me. And that's part of the guidelines, when it comes to employment too. Oftentimes women or anybody, because sexual harassment can go different ways. This is just an example, okay? Let's just say, for example, somebody touches you inappropriately, or they do something, or they show you something or whatever, and you say, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay. Now, I'm not a prude. Okay. Like if somebody shows a cartoon and, it can be in poor taste or whatever, I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, I'm going to tell somebody. I'm not that kind of person. Okay. What's going on here is extreme stuff. Okay. That literally has affected my life. That's a lawsuit worthy. Okay. Now, that's not to say that an inappropriate picture can't be, worthy of a lawsuit. It is if somebody says they're offended by it and you continue to do it. Now, I'm going to repeat this. If somebody says to stop something and you continue to do it, that is considered harassment. And this is what people don't understand. So I get very annoyed with people who have a hard time understanding things. That should be basic. And that's not cutting down, it's not, but I'm expressing my feelings, okay? Because that's what a lot of it has to do with, just the ignorance of other people, and then the arrogance of them when you try to correct them, because you're, like I said, it's a life-saving thing, okay? It's your life is in jeopardy. And then they turn around and they want to spite you more by cranking it up. Absolutely devastating. Absolutely. Especially when you don't have the network and they cut you off from a network. That's what really devastates. You're like, well, then what are you supposed to do? Yeah. And they think they either have the right to do it, or they're trying to prevent you from doing whatever, and they have no right. It's just all of it. Then you bring the fact then that you're living in the United States of America, that's supposed to be a free country. And the whole feeling is so goddamn surreal. I can't articulate it. That's about the best I can do. So that was one issue that we brought up. The very fact that the treatment that they receive from people, and I know I was calling on some jobs. This is about in 2015. There was this old lady, she answered the phone. I had been calling everybody, and she just came up with this rude comment as I'm like asking to speak with the person who's in charge of hiring. And I just thought, is that even necessary? And yeah, which brings me to the rumor campaign, okay? Because somebody hears or thinks that a rumor is true, that they take it upon themselves to punish you. I mean, seriously, people just go too far with their hate, especially when you think that this is supposed to be a religious thing. Now, I don't know exactly, I don't know what kind of warped shit that, like, you know, Piggy's into, but I wouldn't want that shit for nothing, okay? Because it seems very vengeful, evil, and just malicious. And it's easy to get people to follow that sort of stuff. And that's why I'm talking about how people oftentimes use religion as a crutch. So that was another thing that was talked about. You know, their behavior, their inability to stop it, and they try to justify their actions by, you know, you can't justify it, okay? The fact is, you're wrong, so stop it, you know what I mean? So that's simple. Or they don't understand the fact that they don't understand trauma. They don't understand how it can mentally affect a person. I remember my sister Lisa one time implying that I was kind of weird or crazy or whatever because I was depressed a lot, okay? But, you know, when you're somebody who has money and like her, she doesn't have to worry about keeping a roof over her head, right? She doesn't have to worry about dealing with harassment at work and going to home and wonder, are you going to get fired and you're going to end up on the street next day? She didn't have to worry about those sort of things, okay? So that is another person who lacked empathy, okay? I'm just saying is that, you know, especially when this is supposed to come from people who are God-fearing or Christian, it's just, wow, you know? And so my point is that, you know, I'm hoping that employers would take it seriously. I know in the back of a lot of people's mind, they're like, well, I don't know. But the fact is that really, the reason why you have those posters on the wall is because you're supposed to in the first place. Okay? Really, you're not supposed to sit here, you know, be blabbing your mouth, you know, outloading confidential information, judging people on the things that, and hating people for the things that, you know, you discriminate them for. Like, okay, I understand, I'm not saying white people have to like black people or Mexican people. They don't have to like anybody they don't want to, okay? But when you're so overt about it, it's ridiculous. And then, you know, it's these discrimination issues like religion, marital status, and stuff like that their staff is supposed to know about in the first place. So no matter how you slice it, gang stalking is wrong, okay? So when employers don't understand why it's wrong, this is why. Because it puts good people out of work. It prevents them from being able to fairly secure employment. It puts people at a lower economic status than they're supposed to be. How would you like it if your daughter, you spent like that hundreds and thousands of dollars for your daughter to go to expensive law school, and then somebody pulls this trick on her? You would understand that that's devastating, right? Well, absolutely. Regardless, you know what I mean? It's extremely devastating. And they don't understand that. But that's why. Because it affects the rights, it tramples on the rights, affects their ability to live. And that's why. Because it destroys, ignores the right that, number one, you have the right. Another thing that this person brought out, legally we have the right to privacy, you know, and you're exploited. I mean, like, they'll put your house under surveillance, they'll like throw all your business out in the street, no concern. So you get these employers that participate in this, and it's like, wow, you know. And then nowhere in any of your textbooks have you ever been prepared for some kind of bullshit like that. You know what I mean? Because it's not supposed to happen. It's not professional. And so that's where the feelings, the discord comes in, because it's a very bad situation, and the negative feelings that it conjures up. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. I think I've been bitching about this enough, but I think you get the picture. It's very difficult, and for people who can't understand, how is it that you can't understand that? You know what I mean? And if you can't understand that, you might be one of those people who lack empathy. Think about it. Wrapping up this video. Have a wonderful day.